Hello and welcome back to FPL Hacks with me, Holly Shand. Today I'm going to be looking at how we should prepare for the season run-in. We're at the international break of the 2021-22 season with just 8 game weeks remaining, so lots to discuss, including how we can use the chips in those final game weeks. If you've got a plan, do get in the comments and let me know, and if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, all of your support is really appreciated. Let's get into it. Now, as I've just mentioned, we are in the middle of the international break, and it tends to happen every international break. You log in to check how your FPL team is looking and you see more flags than in an Olympic opening ceremony. But do not worry, we will have press conferences on Thursday and Friday before the Saturday deadline for game week 31, where a lot of those injury issues will hopefully be cleared up. So don't be looking at the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team, Aaron Ramsdale, and thinking they're flagged, I need to transfer them out straight away, because I would be surprised if some of those players that are flagged at the moment weren't available for game week 31. And certainly players who you've acquired a lot of team value in, you want to be keeping hold of until the end of the season. Someone like Trent, if you bought him back in game week 1 for 7.5 million, he's risen up in price to 8.5 million now. If you sell him at 8.5 million and then you want him back again, it's going to cost you an extra 0.5 million, because remember, you only get half of the value acquired in a player. Now, the next thing to think about is your chip strategy for the end of the season. If you've got some chips left, if you're not in the same boat as me, I've used all my chips now, so no chips for me. But if you have got chips left, deciding when you're going to use those is going to be quite important before you start deciding on transfers. So having a look at the upcoming schedule, we know that we've got a double game week in 31. It's just a small double game week there for Everton and Burnley. And then when we get to game week 33, we know that's going to be a double game week for some teams, a blank game week for others. So that's another one to be aware of. And fantasy pundits have maybe had a look later in the schedule and are forecasting that game week 36 will be a big double game week. So if you've got chips remaining, that's going to help you to decide when you should use those chips. Certainly if you've got a bench boost chip left, I think game week 36 would be the prime time to play that one. We know that the wildcard used in conjunction with the bench boost in consecutive weeks, because you can only play one chip per week, will be useful. So you could look to wildcard in perhaps game week 34 and then bench boost in game week 36. We may see some other doubles towards the end of the season. If you've not got the bench boost left, game week 34 still a plausible time to wildcard, but you could choose to wildcard into game week 31 and get yourself set up for game week 33. I do think that game week 33 could be a good time to free hit. And again, if you've not got that bench boost chip left, free hit for 36 also looks like a very good option. And then triple captain, I would maybe use that on a week where you don't need to use one of the other big chips. That would be my thinking anyway. But it's important that you've got a good idea of what your chip strategy is from now until the end of the season, because if you don't use them, you will lose them, and they can be quite pivotal in making sure you make good progress during the season running. Now, my next tip would be to target those teams that have got more fixtures left. So it's been a very chaotic season in terms of postponements, and we've reached the end of the season now. We've got 8 game weeks remaining, but only 4 teams have just 8 games remaining. Wolves, West Ham, Brentford and Leeds have 4 fixtures. Everyone else have 8 fixtures, everyone else has more than that. In terms of those with the most fixtures remaining, there's 11 fixtures remaining for Burnley, Leicester and Everton, so their assets could be high on our agenda. And notably, in terms of those teams at the top of the Premier League table, Chelsea and Arsenal have 10 fixtures left as well, so another club to be looking at. Now, as well as teams having a lot of fixtures remaining, we also need to have a look at teams that have got something to play for. It's at this time of the season where we can throw that form book out of the window, and those fixture tickers are potentially not that relevant now either, because you have some teams that are in mid-table obscurity that don't have a lot to play for right now, whereas other teams have got a lot on the line. Looking at the top of the table, obviously it's going to be a very tight title race between Manchester City and Liverpool towards the end of the season. So obviously their assets, I can see them maybe not having lots of high scoring games, but grinding out some good results, lots of clean sheets, keeping things tight in their quest to take the title. We've also got a lot of teams involved in the race for top four. I think Arsenal, Spurs and Manchester United are all teams worth investing in for that reason. And then if we look to the bottom of the table and those clubs trying to avoid relegation, looking probably from Newcastle downwards, so it's present Newcastle, Brentford, Leeds, Everton, Watford and Burnley. There's a lot on the line for those clubs, and particularly when those clubs fighting for avoiding relegation, particularly when those clubs are at home. We've seen Everton's home and away form has had a stark contrast this season. That's maybe why some managers aren't as excited about their prospects in the double game week 31, because those two games are away from home. But a home game for a team with lots to fight for could be one where it's going to provide us with plenty of fantasy points. Now, the other thing we need to think about is those clubs that are involved in other competitions, because maybe their focus might not be on Premier League action, and you will find that their schedule might be a bit more congested than others. So in terms of the FA Cup, it's 4 Premier League teams in the semi-final stages: Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Manchester City and Liverpool. Now, I think Manchester City and Liverpool will be focusing solely on that Premier League title. That's what's going to be most important to them. And they're still in the Champions League as well, so FA Cup perhaps a little bit down on the pecking order. But looking at Chelsea, who, aren't going to be in contention for the Premier League title, you would think at this stage the FA Cup and the Champions League may be their top priority for the end of the season. Crystal Palace, again, a team that looks safe for this season. Could their focus now be on winning an FA Cup rather than their overall league position at the end of the season? We could see some rotation for their assets around those FA Cup fixtures. Now, we also have West Ham involved in the later stages in the Europa League. That's keeping them busy on Thursday evenings. I think, they obviously do have a chance in that tournament. That's going to be the easiest way they could qualify for Champions League football next season. That could be an interesting one to see how that plays out. I don't think they'll manage to make top 4 in the Premier League, but that's going to be a big focus for them. So maybe their assets in the Premier League, they're not going to be fielding their best team if they're focusing on Europa League. And a similar situation for Leicester, who are in the UEFA Conference League, currently don't look like they'll be qualifying for the European spots in the Premier League table this season. So perhaps that Conference League title could be, their main source of getting European football again next season. So again, they have got those 3 games in hand, but are their assets going to be prioritised in their Premier League fixtures? It's something that we need to keep an eye on. Now, the final thing I would look to consider when we're thinking about how to prepare for the season run-in is those players that have got something really important to play for. Now, that may be a move away to another club, it may be playing for a new contract, or it may be trying to break records. So, if you've got a player in your fantasy team who is looking for a move away, maybe something that's publicised in the press, or is going to be out of contract soon and is wanting to broker a better contract, then we could see some big performances in there as they're looking to solidify their place and that new contract. We also do see this as well when we've got a big tournament coming up. Obviously no tournament this summer, but we do have the World Cup coming up in the winter of 2022. We could see some players putting in some big performances to try and get noticed in terms of their position for their national teams as well. In terms of those chasing records, it looks like Mo Salah has got that golden boot wrapped up already. 20 goals so far this season. Can he break his record back from a few seasons ago of 31 goals in a season? The Playmaker Award for the most assists is looking a little bit more exciting. We've got Trent Alexander-Arnold on 11 assists. Robertson and Salah on 10. Will that award be going to a Liverpool player by the end of the season? You know, Robertson's making a late claim for it. He's had a lot of assists in his last few games. It's going to be an interesting one. And also when it comes to the most clean sheets in the season, at the moment we've got a dead heat. We've got Alisson and Ederson both on 16 clean sheets this season. I've mentioned already, I can see Liverpool and City grinding out some low-scoring results in this later stage of the season. Those two could be getting plenty more clean sheet points, and particularly Ederson is a good route into the Manchester City defence. We don't have to worry about rotation there, so another element to keep an eye on. Hopefully you've found this video useful and it's going to help you in your planning for the season run-in. If you found it useful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Any fantasy dilemmas that you've got, do get in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them ahead of the deadline for Gameweek 31. It's a double game week on Saturday the 2nd of April. Good luck everybody for FPL Gameweek 31.